All right. Welcome to the Lord's Minute, our quick hit video series where we break down all the biggest happenings in gaming and beyond. I'm your host, April Prince, writer for Lords of Gaming. And with me, all the way from the Iron Lords podcast, is Lord Sovereign.
Hey, what's going on?
Hello.
Happy Father's Day to all.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, so the topic today is what, April? What are we talking about?
Well, if we've seen Twitter in the last week, we know that Breath of the Wild 2 was announced.
Ooh, yeah, Breath of the Wild 2. Well, it was announced beforehand. Actually, I don't even know. It's definitely not called Breath of the Wild 2. That's almost for sure. So yeah, Breath of the Wild was shown. All 1 minute and 38 seconds of it was shown.
It said you can have a crumb of Zelda.
Yeah, you can have a little bit of Zelda, and then we'll let you guys fight over whatever you think it might be. So, yeah, anybody who listens to Iron Lords podcast knows that Cog and myself we're big fans of this particular Zelda game. I'm a Zelda fan through and through. I think this is one of my favorite games ever. I really, really enjoy what they did with Breath of the Wild. I know some people, they went away from tried and true Zelda with, the lack of real dungeons and stuff like that. But for me, like I said, I've said this a million times, but when I played the original Zelda, when I was a little kid and you're 10 years old, like you have a lot of imagination. So, you see these ugly little sprites or whatever in front of you. And as a kid who played like Atari and stuff like that, I literally ran around, there were literally little boxes moving stuff around. Like it wasn't even looking like Zelda. So, you apply a lot of imagination to those games. And for me, seeing Breath of the Wild was really the first time that the way I had imagined Zelda to be in my mind kind of came to life. And that was such a special game for me. And the fact, and I think Nintendo realizes how special the game is because it's rare that they do a direct sequel to anything. They did it for Ocarina of Time, which is my second favorite Zelda of all time. So, and Majora's Mask, it grew on me over time. It was it's a very different game. But yeah, so I'm very excited for Zelda. So tell me, what's kind of your affinity for Zelda? Do you have a big love for it, or?
Well, I own the Hyrule Historia.
Oh my God, that's it. I guess you're in the door already. That's it.
It was a Christmas gift. So I was like, I want this for Christmas.
Yeah, give me this Bible right here. So what about Breath of the Wild in particular? Is that your favorite, or are the other ones that you consider sort of are closer to your heart?
So my first introduction to Zelda was, of course, Ocarina of Time. And then when Super Smash came out, I played that with my cousins. Okay. So me and Link go way back.
Okay. Yeah. Ocarina of Time was another moment for me. Like just to see Zelda in 3D and to see how they just translated that gameplay to 3D. It was wow. It was huge.
It was beautiful. And then you had Majora's Mask, which is the uncanny valley of Zelda games.
Yeah. Majora's Mask was weird. At first I was like, what is this? I remember I didn't have, it's one of the games I think you needed the RAM cartridge. You really needed the RAM cartridge to really see it, shine on the N64. And I think you could run it without it, if I'm not mistaken. Well, anyway, I had it in there and it looks so blurry to me. I'm like, why does this game look so blurry? So that off the bat, that was one of the reasons why I couldn't play it. And then when I started playing it, and then I said, I got to power through this because I love Ocarina of Time. This is going to be great. And then I'm just like, the time mechanic just got to me. The time mechanic. I was like, no, I don't know. When you're young, sometimes you're impatient. I was like, nah, I can't do this. And I didn't come back to it until they did the remaster again for the 3DS. And that's when I really, attacked it again. And I was like, okay, now I understand. I'm old and I'm patient now, or slow. one of the two. So, so this little tidbit that we've seen from Breath of the Wild 2 had a lot of interesting little morsels about, kind of where the game's going to take place, what kind of sort of powers Link has. So what about the trailer sort of interested you most? What was most exciting? The fact that they're going back to the sky, which coincidentally seems the reason why it's ideal that they bring Skyward Sword back now, even though this game isn't coming out for a while. Or what about the prospect of these new sort of weapons that Link has and powers, or is it even Link at all? Right, that's another sort of thing that people are speculating about. So what kind of is most exciting to you about what we saw?
I mean, when you get into Zelda games, of course, you're always excited for the new weapons, the newest mechanic, how
Mm-hmm.
Link is gonna play.
Right. Zelda is one of those things where it's like they're always really good at kind of reinventing the wheel while while still kind of the core of it is still Zelda. Like that's not an easy thing to do. And they make it interesting each time, even though at the core of it, it's still kind of core Zelda, like except I know Breath of the Wild is a deviation for a lot of people, but I do think it's still Zelda. Like it feels like Zelda.
Well, yeah, and that's what Breath of the Wild was supposed to be. It was supposed to be this big departure from what we had seen before.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it
So
ended up being like this big like thing. Not even just in the Zelda fandom, just gaming period. Everybody needed to play Breath of the Wild.
yeah, it was because that we talked about it on the Iron Lords podcast, and we made the comparisons with Horizon Zero Dawn, another great game, open world game, but in my opinion had the disfortunate honor of the unfortunate honor of coming out 4 days or so before Breath of the Wild. And Breath of the Wild did some, because its open world was so different, it was very easy to kind of make sort of negative comparisons for Horizon Zero Dawn. And Horizon Zero Dawn has a lot about it that's great. But when you see the sort of the openness of the open world, quote unquote, and the fact that Link can go anywhere, climb anywhere, it's something that kind of open worlds have been striving for forever. And this small Zelda game on this little machine, managed to do it right in a way that it's that kid thing it's that discovery thing when literally when you sort of are able to climb over a mountain, uh, you know of your own recognizance, and it's not like it's a mechanic in the game that you have to get better at or whatever, improve your stamina to climb or whatever the case may be. But the fact that when you get to the top of that mountain, there's going to be something interesting there for you to see and find, and something on the horizon that you weren't able to see before, and you can actually go to it. Open world games hadn't done that before. And I think that sense of discovery is what kind of put Breath of the Wild in so many people's eyes, like, as this new thing and something to sort of aspire to.
Well, yeah, that and like a common mistake is to say it's open world and it's like, well, I'm here in the world and I'm not finding anything.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And then Zelda did a good job. Some people say, yes, Zelda's world is not sort of filled with NPCs and stuff like that. It's not. But it is about, I think specifically, it's about the wild. It's about you being out there in nature and using the systems of the game to sort of create your fun, right? And I know a lot of people don't like that necessarily. They want their mechanics, they want their set combat mechanics. Zelda, in a lot of ways, this particular Zelda in a lot of ways feels like an immersive sim, where they give you tools, they give you things to manipulate the world with, and then they let you have at it. Yes, there's a story you can follow, but if you choose not to do any of that, you can just run around this world like wreaking havoc, and that's fine too. um
Grand
so
Theft Zelda.
yeah, it really is like Grand Theft Zelda. It really is. So yeah. So what, for me, seeing this little bit of footage from the sequel, whatever they're gonna call it, just like the idea of taking the game to the skies and seeing what that is, and what kind of connection it has to Skyward Sword, and the possibility of dungeons coming back, in whatever form that may be. And the fact that, what was cool when the castle elevated and the castle is like floating above the calamity, I'm like, wow, this reminds me of Castlevania, when Dracula's castle appears. It's like, oh, what's going on here? It's just, if Majora's Mask is anything to go by, then them making another game in that same universe means that game is probably going to be very different. It may look similar, but I think it's going to be a completely different beast. And that could work in their favor or not. It depends. Like, I know I have a confidence in them. They're going to make a great game. I do hope that they don't forget what made Breath of the Wild so special. Definitely add the dungeons, add the stuff that classic Zelda fans were missing from that game, and I think you'll make a lot of people happy.
Well, yeah, I think one of the things that they do well, not only just reinventing, is like finding out what worked and what didn't. For instance, with Wind Waker, when that came out, it split the fan base.
Completely, yeah. I mean, mostly because of the way it looked, right? But it was one of those things. Well, you know what it is, right? As somebody who saw that, I don't know if you remember, but when they showed that original sort of take on what a 3D Zelda was going to be, everybody was looking for realism, right? And we'd have to wait a little bit for Twilight Princess. But when it came to like Wind Waker was just so unexpected that a lot of people just, once they saw the cell shading, they were like, I didn't want this. This is not what I wanted. And they wrote it off, but again,
which is weird because like everybody played, like, I know it's a different kind of game, but like if you played Budokai 3 and all that, you were used to cell shading. This wasn't new.
It wasn't. It was just that what they had shown, that what was the stuff they had shown that was going to be capable, or whatever the GameCube was going to be capable of, they made you think it was this very super realistic thing. And, so your impression was, this is what the game's going to be, right? And when the game came out and it wasn't anything like that, I mean, a lot of people just like, I don't know, I'm done. What the hell is this? And they completely wrote it off. I remember, I kind of had to force myself to play it because I was kind of disgusted, because I was like, where is Ganondorf looking real? Like, where's all this? So
I think I had the same reaction when like Super Mario Sunshine came out. I was like, I'm not used to this at all.
You mean seeing it or playing it first?
Once you get your hands on the gameplay, you find out like, hey, this is nice, this is fun. But like looking at it, it's like
it was a different thing. Even playing it, it's a different thing. It feels different. Like the flood mechanics and stuff like that are still aren't super great, but they have a charm of their own. It's different. It's definitely it's not as intuitive as other Mario games, but I don't, some people despise it. I would not go that far.
I think that's the whole thing about like gaming and just being a long time gaming fan. You have to like find the charm in things.
Yeah, you do. I mean, for me, I again, as I've gotten older, I give everything a chance now. Like I don't, I used to have very strict sort of things that I liked or disliked when I was younger. And the funny thing is, then I had time to actually try out so many different things, but I only stuck to certain genres, right? I didn't really go out of that comfort zone. Now I have no time to play whatsoever. And I want to play everything under the sun. Like, give me it all. So it's like, what are you going to do? But I definitely grown to appreciate everything. Big or small, it doesn't matter in terms of games. Like give me an indie game, give me a AAA game, whatever. I'll appreciate it for what it is. But Zelda, I'm excited for what this is. And I don't know, they're saying 2022. Many people don't believe that. Many people believe 2023, like, because they said we're gonna try to get it out in 2022.
They're gonna pull a Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, and it just come out in 2027 or something like that. But but what's interesting about that is that if that is the case, and maybe if we're thinking, let's say late 2022, I don't know that all the speculation that this game will be directly tied to the release of like a Switch Pro or something like that. I don't think that's the case at this point, right? Because if they're going to release new hardware, my thinking is we hear about it soon. I know everybody speculated we should have known about it by now, and it hasn't happened. But my thinking is, I mean, there are people there are rumors out there from people that are really reputable talking about it's supposed to be this year. And hey, COVID has messed with everything. It could push it back. But I still don't think that this game is necessarily intrinsically tied to the launch of that hardware. So,
nor should it be.
It shouldn't be, but I understand why. When the original Switch came out, obviously coming off of the Wii U, they needed a big win. They needed a big win, and obviously Breath of the Wild was really intended as a Wii U game, and it got ported to Switch, which is fantastic. That's what needed to happen. And they they had a humongous Zelda game at the launch of a brand new console. So I know they would probably love to repeat that magic, but I don't know if the timelines sort of line up anymore. So we'll see. We'll see. But either way, I'm super excited for this game. I think when it comes to Zelda and Mario specifically, they've done so much to constantly reinvent those franchises. So you see a lot of other franchises have this fatigue and they sort of fall off and they're not as strong as they once were. Like you look at the Halos and stuff like that. And obviously
Sonic.
Yeah, things like Sonic. And there's certain franchises that are older that they try to bring forward and modernize, that it doesn't work, or it takes a long time to find its footing. And I think what Nintendo has managed to do with Zelda and Mario is great, because it's just every time out, it's like, okay, let's clean the slate a little bit. We have these basic core mechanics that we're going to sort of lean on, but at the end of the day, there's going to be something that makes this game very distinct. And for the most part, they've hit it out of the park every time. Like, yes. Even when you look at Zelda, portable, Zeldas, they're all very great. They're all polished games. You have a couple of, there's nothing that you could look at a Zelda game and you can really say that's a dud. Like, it's horrible. Like, well, maybe the old CDI games. I don't know if you've ever seen those games, the Philips CDI games.
Well, I think those are amazing in a different way.
They're amazingly horrible, but yes. But yeah, I don't know. They've done so well with these two franchises in particular, and just sort of reinventing the wheel every time they come out. So I'm really, really excited and interested to see what they're going to do with the sequel, because, like I said, if Majora's Mask is anything to go by, it's going to be bonkers. It's literally going to turn the world on its head. So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm excited.
Well, this has been the Lord's Minute. Thank you so much for joining us. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at lordsofgaming.net. I'm April Prince here with Lord Sovereign. Until next time, this has been the Lord's Minute.